What's up, everybody? I am Cicely,
I'm Darius.
and we just, thought we'd sit down for a few minutes. You hear him, right? And do a video for y'all. It's ironic. This is August right here. There to feet, who he insists on being under his mom 24/7. Nursing mothers, y'all know how it is. God bless all of us. But we want to do a video. Ironic that he's in it because it's sort of about his birth and the birth of our son, Haven, who's upstairs napping, thank God. But after I just gave birth to him when I have him?
Yeah, I mean November 3rd.
November 7th.
November 7th.
Wow, November 7th. So he's almost 2 months now. And after the birth of August, after the birth of Haven, we always get a lot of questions about, like I gave birth at a birthing center. And people want to know how it's different from a hospital, why we chose that route. There's just always general curiosity, sometimes even skepticism about why we made that decision. So we figured we would take the time to make that video for you all, mainly because, it's something that we chose, and we chose after not really knowing a lot about it. And I feel like, sort of the direction that we're taking our videos and taking our content is really to help, we our kind of tagline of sorts is like, helping you to try something new or inspiring you to try something new. And so giving birth at a birthing center is something that you might not know about and you may even consider. It's definitely something that I'm a black person, so I can speak from the black person's perspective. A lot of black people don't do, and so we wanted to do this video.
Yeah, to piggyback off of her, of course, when we brought the option to the table about her having an actual birth, immediately both of us started doing research as to what does that look like, what it is to expect, and of course I took to YouTube immediately, and like she said, there wasn't much of us to give a perspective as to how this goes. There was a lot of home births, a lot of natural births. That's cool, but we weren't on that level. We weren't having a home birth, especially on our first kid. So again, it kind of encouraged us that even though we were very curious and pretty much set on having a natural birth, we wanted to give our perspective as to what that is, because there isn't many of them out there for us.
Yeah, let me also put a little disclaimer in here. Like, we're not anti-hospital. We're not anti-epidural. I know there are people that have very strong opinions either way. I think that every mom should have the ability and the freedom to choose however they want to give birth to their child. This was just a route that we took. And it's funny that he mentioned home births, because what actually sparked our interest, we follow another content creator family called Belief in Fatherhood with Belief Mel and
Yvette.
Mrs. Melilyn or Yvette.
Mm-hmm.
Some of y'all probably know them, and the Chocolate Babies. So we started following their content, and I don't think her two youngest, I don't think she did a home birth, but with her daughter Anaya, that was right around the time we started following them, and they kind of documented some of that, and definitely with their latest son.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw that, and like, man, like I always thought that the only way to give birth was in a hospital on a bed on your back, like, because that's what I see on TV. That's how or through a C-section, that's how my mom gave birth, and nobody ever really talked about it.
Yeah, my mom, I was a cesarean baby as well.
Yeah, I wasn't a cesarean baby, but I'm saying, like, she gave birth at a hospital.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you really think about it, we're not that far removed from home births. Like, my mom was birthed at home. All of her siblings were birthed at home. And so there was this intrigue of, why go that route? So I think the first thing that really sparked my interest was being able to have a water birth. So that's literally where you give birth in the water. And I'm not apparently I have a high pain tolerance and didn't know it, but not knowing that, I also was very afraid of getting an epidural. Like the thought of, people would tell me how long the needle is and have all these horror stories about how they couldn't feel their back, and I'm like, this is just not, I don't want to take that risk. It's also a reason why I'm very skeptical about getting LASIK. Whole nother story, whole nother video. But I just have this fear of something going wrong in a medical process like that, which is weird because you could also be like, well, something could go wrong in a water birth too. But for whatever reason, it didn't seem as scary. So I started to do research on that, and it was, we actually know a family, we're friends with a family here that gave birth at home, and I was like, nah, that's a little too loose. Yeah. Because we were watching videos, and the husband filling up the tub and everything.
Yeah,
and
all the kids are surrounded, and I'm like, she busts wide open in front of the kids, which again, that household was used to it, but
yeah,
that was just too at home for us to endure. Like I said, especially on the first baby.
Yeah, and the closest hospital to us, there is a hospital right around the corner from us, but it's a emergency only type of hospital. And so the thing about giving birth at home is that or giving birth at a birthing center as well, you always want to have a hospital nearby, an overseeing doctor. Anyway, so we started doing research, and we realized that there aren't a whole lot of birthing centers. There aren't any birthing centers in the city of Charlotte. There used to be a whole, a whole system. I think it was called Baby and Co, something like that. But they ended up shutting down because, I don't know why, but I do know that funding and support of birthing centers is very hard to maintain. The birthing center we ended up landing at is called Natural Beginnings Birthing Center in Statesville. Yeah. And I went and visited. I was still going to my regular OBGYN, actually with Haven, up until it was time for me to go give birth. Well, almost up until the time it was time for me to give birth. Probably up until through my second trimester, I was still going to my regular OBGYN here in Charlotte. And then I switched over to them. And so there was a little bit of a mix to kind of transition into that.
To speak on, we were talking about having home birth and how the high risk was. The great thing about when we chose to do a birthing center, everything that was great about most of the times with natural birthing centers is that they are not far from a hospital. I think, of course, as a business, you kind of want to have that right on the within arm's reach, I guess, for lack of better terms, and that quelled our concern significantly when we knew that, hey, there was a hospital not even 5 minutes up the street in the event that anything happened. So that definitely made me sway in the favor of birthing centers a bit more.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of the things like what is a birthing center. So the birthing center that we chose, actually, they also do what they call well visits, well care for women in general. So there are a team of midwives there, and instead of seeing your regular, what's the abbreviation for doctors, for general doctors? I can't remember now. They're MD. Instead of seeing a regular, I think it's MD.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, let's go with that. We really did research here. Instead of going with, a general practitioner that you would go see, you could potentially go to this particular birthing center, and they, care for you, do your pap smears, do your annual exams, all of that. And I think they even do pediatric care. I could be wrong, but I think they even do pediatric care. Don't quote me on that part, but for sure they do well care for women, whether you're pregnant or not. So a lot of birthing centers are set up that way, but some only see women who are pregnant for their prenatal visits, postnatal visits, and all of that. So it's just like going to a regular doctor, honestly, except it's much smaller, and it feels more homey. And I think that was an appeal to me too, that I would feel less like I was in a system of patients and feel more like, I was in a family of patients, that, I had midwives who knew specifically about my case. Like, you would rotate a midwife just same way that you would do at a regular practitioner. Even at my own OBGYN, I saw multiple doctors because you just never know who is going to deliver your baby. But I did have one main midwife who ended up delivering both of our sons, Nicole. So it's similar in that way. Giving birth at a birthing center can also be a little bit cheaper. They do their billing differently, how they process their insurance and stuff like that. And so your insurance may cover birthing center care and you don't even realize it, which, always felt, again, like I just wasn't a part of a system. It felt like I was getting honest care. Not saying that I wasn't getting honest care elsewhere, but y'all know how you hear certain stories about, doctors pushing certain drugs and certain ideologies, and even though they really shouldn't do that, that sometimes money and sponsorship and other obligations can get in the way of some of that. And I just didn't want to, even though I've never personally experienced anything like that I know of. Go to sleep, boy.
In the same vein of care with natural beginnings, of course they are really conscious in a way of risk. And another thing I appreciated about them is that, and I'm assuming this is for all birthing centers, is that when they bring you in, of course they determine through your medical history, of course your age and things like that, to determine even if you can qualify for a natural birth.
Yeah.
Again, as a business, you want to make sure that you don't want to run the risk of losing the mother or the child in that particular case. But they're not just taking anyone in, because of course you have to fit a certain standard to qualify for having a natural birth. Which again is what we appreciate.
Well, to qualify for having birth at the birthing center.
Yes, for having a birth at the birthing center. Thank you. And so that, again, from somebody who was like, I'm not enduring this, but I want to protect the person that I'm a part of in this process, it was good to know that they say, okay, we're going to let you know, we're going to check all the corners to make sure that you can even have this natural birth here. And kind of in general, just the things to watch out for, and I guess, again, to qualify. So I appreciated it about natural beginnings.
So if you have a high risk pregnancy, then birthing centers wouldn't be for you. There may be some birthing centers that take women no matter what, but I think for the most part, you want a woman who has generally a low risk pregnancy, even if you along the process you get you test positive for gestational diabetes or something, or high blood pressure, preeclampsia. They take extra precautions just in case they need to transport you to the hospital, things of that sort. So birthing centers are like smaller, I don't even want to say clinic, because that makes it seem like it's like a regular rotation of people. Now he's trying to get comfortable on my breast, y'all, not on my nipple. He's not nursing anymore. He mad because my breast ain't pillowing the way that he wants it to. Another thing that I also appreciate about a birthing center, like I said, it had that home feel, and not only with the people, you feeling like it's a smaller practice, feeling more personable, more personalized care, but also the actual birthing rooms are like bedrooms. Yeah. Like you have a queen size bed. There's room for the birthing tub. There's large showers for you to go in and out of, freedom to walk around, windows that you can open. There's some women who choose to walk around outside or walk around the building. Like those are things that there's some freedom and flexibility there that you wouldn't have at a traditional hospital. And that was another one of the things that appealed to me, because I didn't know what I was going to be like, or what I was going to want, what I was going to need in terms of my birthing desires, my process. But I knew that, number one, I wanted to give birth in water if I could, which even if most hospitals don't let you do, they let you labor in a tub but not give birth in a tub. And I also knew that I wanted to be comfortable. Let me think, have I ever been in the hospital? No. I've never personally been in the hospital. I've gone to see other people, and I just never have liked, who looks forward to going to the hospital? But it just always seemed very cold, very medicinal, very, just kind of stark. Like the decor is always kind of meh, and and all of my experiences in visiting hospitals have been negative, and I just didn't want that to be a part of my birth story.
Yeah. And to give more insight on the rooms, like it's not when some people think rooms, they think it's like an Airbnb. It doesn't feel like someone lived there. You know what I mean? It's not busy. They're very intentional about the setting of the rooms. It's it's a cool setting.
Calming.
It's simple. It's calming.
Yeah.
If anything is on the wall, it is motivational. There's not a lot of furniture. All the furniture that's in there is intentional. It's comfortable. Again, it's set for you to come in and be as much at peace as possible, so that you can be calm, that your heart rate isn't high, but not feel again like a hospital.
Yeah.
That you can lay and rest, which what we did immensely with Haven, because we had a 22-hour labor. But you just feel comfortable as the person giving birth and as the person that is there to support. So I appreciated that part about the birthing center.
Yeah. So you're probably already starting to see a few differences between giving birth at a birthing center and giving birth at a hospital. Another very big difference that pretty much would cause alarm in folks who didn't really understand, why somebody would want to do it, is that for the most part, you don't get medical intervention. So there's no epidural. There's no, there are drugs that they can administer if they absolutely have to. But the idea, typically, if you want to give birth at a birthing center, is that you want an all-natural birth. And I never thought that I would be that type of woman. But like I said, in doing research, there was a little more intrigue. It also helps that Glenn and Yvette, that they're Christians. And so there was some of the sort of spiritual element to giving birth that Yvette would kind of insert in. And, us being Christian, I saw birth in a different light. I saw carrying a child and giving birth as a form of worship, as an honor, as a blessing from God. And I wanted to be able to fully experience that process. I wasn't afraid of giving birth. I didn't think about the pain of birth. I instead thought about, wow, this is really a blessing to get to carry this child, to get to birth this child. And that honestly helped me to keep a positive mindset all throughout my pregnancy and throughout labor, is why I made it through 22 hours of labor. Because, my doula, which I'll get into that, our doula, she was like, man, you were so calm. And, you just I played gospel music, worship music throughout my birth. That's another thing that we were allowed to do. We could play music. I could roam about. I could worship in the room if I wanted to. Didn't. Now, there was a couple times where I did sing, or I would hum, certain songs, because it just was kind of a pick me up. But yeah, it was I never saw giving birth as being scary or like, oh my gosh, I don't want to feel anything. There are some women who are like, just put me out. I don't care. And for whatever reason, I just wasn't that type of woman. I knew that I knew that my body was created to give birth. And I saw that as a beautiful thing. And therefore, I wanted to experience all of it and give my body more credit than I felt like I would have been doing if I would have just been like, give me that shot and I'll see what happens.
Yes. Again, this is we hope that this video will encourage people to consider natural childbirth and not to put down going to the hospital. Again, people have different pain tolerances. Some mothers who can be, Christ followers like we are, can still say, I just want the baby here as gracefully as possible, which may not include natural birth. That's fine. But again, this is how she experienced it. I know that when I researched it, again, I would never be able to have a kid, but some women who said that this process was the tail end of just a beautiful journey of Christ blessing us with a kid, of us being able to conceive, her creating a child, and of course the last intimate part of bringing the child into the world. And she wanted to experience it as natural as possible. And so, again, natural birth was the best alternative to give her that opportunity to be like, all right, I want to give birth in the way that I can without any, what's the word I'm looking for? Assistance, medical assistance.
Yeah.
And just, incur whatever comes with it to make it as natural and as intimate as possible.
Yeah, and you're not just out here heeing and hawing and sweating and screaming at the top of your lungs.
Yeah.
A lot of the process of birth is it's what we see on TV, and it's not at all like that. It doesn't happen that quick, as 22 hours of labor will tell you. So there's a lot of misinformation, I think, or preconceived notions we have about birth that I had even as a 30-something-year-old getting pregnant, and I just thought that birth was a totally different thing. But I knew that, like all pain, a lot of it is how you mentally handle it.
Yeah.
And so one thing that really, really helped me during both births was having a doula. And I think there's the good thing about how medicine is going now is that certified nurse midwives, there might be a midwife that has privileges at a hospital near you, and so you can still have some of that more intimate experience that you may not necessarily get with a different type of doctor, that more kind of natural care, without the intervention of a lot of different types of medicine or personalized care in that way. You might, I know here in Charlotte, they're getting much more receptive to that, much more receptive to allowing doulas to come into the rooms, things of that sort. But our doula was absolutely amazing. And I really don't know what I would have done. It would have been very difficult to give birth without her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, it's like having a support person beyond your partner, because even though Darius did an amazing job in both of our births in supporting me, there's a different type of mindset that someone has who's not personally involved in it, who's not, it's not their child, it's not their experience. And so it freed him up to really support me in a different type of way, to where he could observe more, where he could take in the moments more, as opposed to being frantic or not knowing what to do. And so having a doula, in addition to giving birth at a birthing center, I think that's like the perfect combination, and she was a photographer, which was great. But so some of the video footage that we're cutting to in and out of here is from her, and so definitely go and support and watch that entire video over there. A disclaimer that you're not going to see all of me. It actually is very modestly shot, but to my male cousins, my brother-in-laws, and we're youth leaders at our church.
She out here.
I'm a little out here.
Yeah.
So just a disclaimer.
Yeah.
All of that to say, like, once I started to view giving birth as a beautiful story, as something that that's an honor and a privilege to do, something that that I was built to do, I started to view natural birth as the way to go. And the thing about giving birth at birth center is that if something goes wrong, you can be transported. Like, they have it's not like the midwives are guessing about what to do in the event of an emergency. They do drills about if for certain scenarios, and the same way that you would expect your doctor to be, any other doctor to be well versed on what to do in the case of emergency, so are certified nurse midwives. So don't discount a midwife just because they don't have the MD on the end of their name. A lot of that training and a lot of the checks and balances that they have to go through, like, they have to do it often, just because it is an alternative way of getting medical care. And so therefore there's probably a few more eyes on it than what you might get elsewhere. So
real quick,
yeah,
let's rewind a second on doulas.
Yes.
Because one, people may not know what a doula is, and two, they may assume that you need a doula and you don't. So I cannot compare every doula to ours. We had arguably the best doula in this area. Shout out to Heather Hepler, the mothering doula. What she did, this is a person who is, of course, well versed in natural births. To say that she assists with birth is an understatement. So she.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna go back to start over on my part. That sound good? Or no, we can just say, I don't remember where I stopped.
It's fine because he was covered up before, so it's not like it's gonna be a smooth.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just trying to figure out okay, I'll just
We're
start
talking
right
about doulas.
I won't compare other doulas to ours. I feel like, I'm pretty confident we had probably the best doula in that area. Shout out to Heather Hepler, the mothering doula. To say that she was an assistant in our natural birth is an understatement. She came to she met with us, 2 sessions prior to our birth. She gave us all of the tips and tricks as far as prepping her during her 3rd trimester up into, she covered all the areas, and she was extremely helpful, especially with Haven's birth, because that was a 22-hour labor, and she was hands-on. She was able to hold my wife, give her affirmations, show her which positions to get in to ease pain and to help with contractions. She covered all the corners, and even afterwards. So they're very, very effective, and I mean, if you can afford one, absolutely get one, but they're not necessary. That's the best way that I can put it.
Yeah, and sometimes if you have a not flex spending, but a health savings account,
Yeah.
You may be able to, utilize money in that account to pay for a doula and to pay for some of the services you would get at a birthing center as well. So that's also something to look into. That's definitely something that we took advantage of.
Yes.
And are very grateful that we were able to do that, because it is technically a part of a medical service. Yeah. And so that was definitely helpful. So your doula is there to help you to, you're not getting an epidural, so you need some form of pain management.
Yes.
So there are certain positions that help with pain. There are certain positions that help progress labor. Definitely with him. So with August, I got to the birthing center and I was 9.5 centimeters dilated. So I was ready to push as soon as we arrived. Our doula was able to help me to get into certain positions to progress the labor, because at that point I was very much over it. I hadn't been in labor very long, especially compared to our first time, but I was just, for whatever reason, I wanted him to hurry up and come.
Yeah.
And there were certain positions that she would get me into that, I absolutely hated, because they hurt, but they worked.
Yeah.
They definitely worked. And so having someone that has that kind of knowledge is just helpful to have with you. As you can see, also, this is August. He gets to make a little appearance. Yeah, so absolutely recommend. You okay? All right. Okay. I had an amazing nurse at Natural Beginnings, and she most definitely, who was a Black African American woman, she was great. She's absolutely great, Ariana. Anyway, I don't know how we got there, but again, it's just a kind of a disclaimer that going this route, you got to do a little research if you want to have people of color in your system of care, which is something that I wish were different in healthcare in general. So that's just kind of a nudge to anybody who might be watching this and thinking about becoming a doula. A friend of ours actually became a doula in the process, and she has been helping me greatly too with some postpartum things. So anyway, all right, moving right along, because August is getting irritated again. Okay, so another reason why we chose a birthing center was because of just recovery time. So one of the things about in our research of researching epidurals and things of that sort, and one thing that is a reality, is that many women end up getting C-sections once their birth gets to a certain point or doesn't progress to a certain point. And there are all types of theories as to why that happens. Some skeptics say that it's because C-sections cost more money and all of that, but I don't care about that. I knew I didn't want to have a C-section because of the healing time. If I didn't, I know some people have it because it's medically necessary, absolutely. But one thing about birthing centers is that, being transported to, even if you have to get transported to a hospital, they typically have lower cesarean rates. And so, you have people who are going to advocate for you, and that's another thing that a doula does, they kind of advocate for you. If that you have a birth plan that they go by, we typed out a birth plan and all of our requests were met. And sometimes you may or may not get that if you have a hospital birth. But one thing that I came across a lot in researching was just recovery time after giving birth. So the thing about giving birth naturally is that you feel everything. That might seem very, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, like you do feel everything. Now, certain positions and pain management, all of that helps. I've never had an epidural before, so I don't know in comparison, but I do know that I felt less pain when I was in the water. I felt less pain when I would do certain positions. I felt less pain when I centered myself and focused in on what I was doing, when I had proper breathing and stuff like that, when I felt supported. All of those things, whether you believe it or not, help. Being comfortable, all that helps with you being able to deal with pain. And so you feel all of that, and that means that you can also feel the direction, the position of your baby. And feeling the direction and position of your baby means that you kind of know how and where to push. But when you get an epidural, you don't feel anything, and so you push on cue. And sometimes, especially your first pregnancy, you don't know really what you're pushing in both scenarios. And so it does help to be able to feel the baby dropping down. It gives you motivation, like, okay, we're making progress. All of these things that you may not be able to feel if there were medical intervention. And as a result of that, I did not tear with either of my births, which made my recovery time much, much shorter. And so that was another thing that I loved about, giving birth at the birthing center. So when you go home the same day. And that's mainly because a lot of the things that would be a lot of the checks and let me not say checks and balances, because they do all the things that you would get done in a hospital. But because there's not a lot of medical intervention, there's not a lot of delay, there's not a lot of side effects, there's not a lot of just adverse reactions, because it's all you. And so within, our first with Haven, we probably left dangerously early.
Yes.
They don't kick you out. It's not like, all right, got to go.
Yeah. Natural beginnings definitely gave us the option to stay and rest. So we had Haven we were there for a while. We had him at about 12:45 in the morning. After they had done everything that they needed to do with him, they were like, hey, you can stay and sleep, because it was about 2. Mm-hmm. But I was just so full of energy and my adrenaline was high. I was like, I can get back on the road and head home. And that was a mistake, because I was running on fumes halfway home, which was like an hour away from the birthing center.
Yeah. So they okay, let me set this up for you. When you come to the birthing center, if you're not quite ready to go into a birthing room, they have a nice area with it's pretty much like a living room, where there's seating for you and people to support you. Another thing about birthing centers is that a lot of them are child friendly, so they have there was a kitchen area, they had toys and things for the children in case you had children with you. Of course, I wouldn't recommend having them for a long period of time. With him, Haven was there because we knew it wasn't going to take a long time. But once you're ready to go into the birthing room, you set up there, get changed into whatever you want to wear. They fill up the pool, you get in the pool, and all of that. I don't really know where I'm going with that, but I just kind of want to set up how, it's kind of like being in your bedroom, but it still feels like not home, but it feels more like home than a hospital. So once you're done giving birth, baby goes right to mom, and they're trying to, the baby's got a latch, and baby stays nursing, and they also keep the umbilical cord attached for a certain amount of time. So it's delayed clamping and all of that. And then there comes a point in time where they want to do tests on the baby once they've cut the cord, and so you do that, and they run their tests. At that point, that's usually when mom showers, when dad showers, and then you come back and nurse some more, and you gotta pee before you leave. There are all these checks and balances that come into play. But it's not like you push the baby out and they're like, all right, next. It's a process to it, but it just feels.
It's very graceful.
Yeah, graceful is a good word.
Yeah, it did not feel quick. Again.
Yeah, didn't feel quick at all.
We got there about 10 minutes to 11, and we had August at about 2, and we were on the road at about 4. But again, from the point that we had Haven until the time we hit the road, it never felt like they were pushing it, like they were flipping the table. You know what I mean?
We had August. It was almost 1. It was like 12:50 something.
Okay, yeah, it was.
And then we ended up heading home about 4. So we spent 3 hours after birth in there, and it wasn't like I was like, dang, like I really want to stay. I was like, dang, I really want to go home. And it was good that, you felt okay to go home. Like I didn't feel like I was risking it by leaving.
Yeah. She wasn't fatigued or anything.
Well, I was.
You were fatigued, but it wasn't like you were coherent. You were enough to say, okay, I can be home and be in my own bed.
Yeah, I was definitely ready to get home into my own bed, and to me, that's an appeal. To some people, that might be scary, and I get that. And so, this is just us kind of giving an honest take on giving birth at a birthing center. Is that we felt comfortable while we were there, and I felt good enough about how my birth went that I could go home, and then you come back, so that after they release you, give you the birth certificate, all the forms and stuff like that, cute little footprints. You go home, and then within 24 hours, you come back so they can check to make sure everything. That's when they do hearing tests. What is it, Pitocin? I think it's called Pitocin. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Moms know what I'm talking about. But there's a certain drug that they can give you to like stop blood clotting after you give birth, so that supposed to reduce the risk of you
hemorrhaging.
Hemorrhaging, yes, and it's right before you push out the placenta, and it's also given sometimes to promote labor, like to in hospitals they give it to progress labor. That's the word I'm looking for. You have the option of getting that at a birthing center. I declined that option. You also have the option of they do the eye drops and the vitamin K for your child. You have the option, like it's not a requirement to get that at the birthing center. We chose to not get the eye drops, but we did get vitamin K. First time, Haven didn't get any of that, but what we realized was that once he went to his pediatrician, he got his vitamin K shot there anyway. And also hepatitis B, I think there's an option for you to get that as well if you want to. So there are some things that you have the option to get just like you would in a hospital. If you wanted to, they go through the risks with you, give you time to think about it, which we also appreciated. And then you also have breastfeeding. You see
lactation?
Yes.
Okay.
A lactation specialist.
Yeah, lactation. I might have just made that up.
You might have, but my brain is real foggy. I'm sort of realizing that as we talk about this. But such is the life of being a mother, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So a lactation consultant.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. We got it. You see someone that kind of they make sure that baby is latching correctly, and if he or she is not, then they give you ways to kind of fix that. So that's another thing that I appreciated. So yeah, that was our experience at a birthing center, and hopefully that answered some of the questions that you all have. Was I ever afraid while there? No. Did I ever think that I wasn't getting great care? Absolutely not. Did I ever feel like I should have given birth at a hospital? Absolutely not. But giving birth at a birthing center is not for everyone. Again, the reasons why we chose it, I wanted to have a water birth. With Haven, I wasn't able to do that. I did labor in a tub, but I didn't give birth in a tub. I gave birth on my side. But you can try different birthing positions. It gives you freedom and flexibility to do that. With August was a water birth, which was very different, but equally beautiful and all that I expected it to be. And another reason why we chose it, we wanted a place that would feel less medical, less cold. We wanted to have kind of personalized care where we knew we were going to be, our needs and questions and desires were going to be, catered to. And I just love the feel of a birthing center, that there are elements of home that are woven into it, that it is a smaller practice, things of that sort. Recovery time was also a factor in that, because you are more than likely going to have a natural birth, your recovery time is not as long as it could be, typically not as long, at least in my experience. It was not as long as I expected it to be or was told that it would be. Bleeding and all of that and tearing, I did bleed obviously, but tearing was not an experience that I had. Also being able to have our doula there, having support, and just feeling empowered as a woman is really important. Feeling like our desires and the birth plan that we had set out and desired to have was going to be adhered to. Yeah. Did I miss anything?
I think you nailed it, baby.
Yeah. To all the moms watching this, what, babe? To all the moms watching this, the pregnant moms, the moms that already got all the kids that they want, you got this. I know that that's sort of a cliche response that we give moms a lot. You got this, mama. But sometimes you really just need to be reminded, like, you really do have this. And I pray that you have the support that you need, and that if you feel unsupported, that you're able to vocalize that, so that you can get the support that you need, that people will be able to, lend a hand. To all the support people that are watching this, don't ask mama what she needs. Just do it. Just do it. I think that's probably one of the most helpful things for me postpartum, was when people would just be like, I'm dropping dinner off. You don't ask me what I want. Just drop it off. I'm dropping some groceries off. I'm going to come fold clothes for you. Absolutely. Anybody with kids always got some laundry to fold. So just obviously within reason, because them spontaneous visits.
For the fathers, let me speak on behalf of the fathers and anybody in general, or just the support beacon. If they decide to take this step into any type of birth, whether it's in a hospital or natural birth, remind yourself that you are literally built for this, or remind them that they're built for this. And that's not cliche either, but their bodies are made for this process. Just continue to encourage them that you are built for this. When you're going through it, you feel all the pain or the fatigue or whatever, just remind yourself that you are built for this. You were made to do what you're going through right now. And as her husband, the father of the kid, I had to continue to be like, she got this. And you do. You will. Just continue to remind yourself. We thank you all for watching.
Yeah.
If you have any questions for me or my wife, leave them in the comments below. We will answer them to the best of our ability. We will link Natural Beginnings Birthing Center that's in the Carolinas. We'll also link our doula if you would like her amazing services, also in the Carolinas. And yeah.
Y'all be great.
All right. Peace.
You don't want to say hi? Hi, hi, hi. to the camera. Say hi, 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 hi to the camera.
Looking at the TV, bro. You're supposed to be paying attention. Look at it. You gotta get prepared, sir. Right there. Look right there.
This is your moment.
August.
Okay.
Okay.
He's mad.
Because he's not on his pillow.
Okay, that's good.